Hello, everyone, and welcome to 9 Ways to Grow Your Audience with Organic Content That Converts. I'm pleased to welcome you all today. And today we have a very special guest for you all, our very own Sean Potter, who's a Senior Content and SEO Strategist at Hotjar. So what have we got in store for you today? Well, Sean is going to share some real-life examples along with some great insights and tips that you can use in your job right away. And after his presentation, he's going to open up the floor so you can ask your burning questions live. And so you can ask anything you want to Sean in real time. So with that in mind, I'll keep the Q&A open throughout the entire webinar. So feel free to get those questions in. And if there's any questions we don't get to answer today, we will do our best to get back to you after the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Sean.
Hey everyone, thanks Nicole. Let me just set up my presentation, one sec. All right. Okay, I'll get straight into it. Thanks very much for coming along, everyone. Really excited for this. So without further ado, let's launch into this, which is 9 ways to grow your audience with organic content that converts. So just to start, a little bit about me. I'm Hotjar's Senior Content and SEO Strategist. I'm responsible primarily for driving growth in new customers from organic search. Been with Hotjar now about 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was agency side for around 8 years, and I trained in journalism and used to work for the BBC as well. So came into SEO and content from that route. Little bit of a fun one. I'm from Sheffield in the UK. I like to think we know our fair share about good content. We've got the Arctic Monkeys for music, Sean Bean, of course, absolute local legend. We've got the oldest football club in the world. That's actually Sheffield Wednesday Stadium. But sort of content, I needed a third one. That was my third one. All right. So when it comes to creating content, things can get overwhelming. Lots and lots of things to consider: your distribution, the format, the data, your inputs. So many different things to consider. It can be overwhelming, but I'm going to try and help you to cut through the noise and focus on delivering value. And I think a great way to do that is to put customer insights at the heart of your strategy. So keep bringing it back to your customers to drive success. And it sounds simple, but actually there are probably lots of things that you're not doing on a regular basis that are going to really help you in your content targeting. So think about things like who you're targeting, how you can help them. How can you align internally to impact growth? What's the data telling you, both qual and quant? What are your customers saying? How do they consider your competitors? So many different things. Sounds easy, right? And in theory, it should be, but a lot of content does genuinely fail to consider the needs of the customer. And I think that there are some common blockers to content success here. So too much focus on numbers, obsession with competitors. Of course, it's great to have an understanding of the competitor landscape, but don't be too obsessed with it. Resistance to trying different formats and experimenting. Keyword first strategy. Of course, keywords, keyword volume are part of the picture. But if you're not carefully considering your customers before that part of the process, then your content's going to be misaligned. I think lack of internal buy-in is another really important one. Like if you have everyone in your organization pulling in the same direction with your content, it's going to make your life much easier and you can focus on delivering the impact that matters. And poor targeting and messaging as well can, of course, be a blocker. And all these things will stop you reaching this point of customer-driven content and also from getting those conversions and the growth that you need. So keep it laser focused. Customer-driven insights are the most powerful tool to impact performance. Organic search, as with other distribution channels, can be a powerful facilitator, but it's the customer-driven insights that will determine your success. If you combine those things, both those things really well, you'll improve your ability to impact conversions. So what will you get out of this webinar? I'm hoping a clear understanding of how to place the customer at the heart of your content strategy, tips on how to leverage organic search to impact growth via content, and specific examples of customer-centric content thinking. Now, my aim here is to give you actionable ideas that can be applied whether you're working for a SaaS company, in-house, your agency side, content market as an SEO, that I'm looking to help you place the customer at the heart of your approach. Now, having sat on both sides of the agency and in-house fence, I believe there are a lot of great practices that I wish I know when I was agency side from SaaS that can be applied if you're working in an agency. So I'm hoping that you'll find this useful no matter which side of the fence you're working on. And I've been to a few talks over my time, and I think one of the things that I've always found frustrating is if you get lots of ideas on how to drive growth that require like ridiculously high budgets, or you just got no ability to test these things yourself. So I've tried to focus on ideas that you can apply without having to spend like massive budgets as well. So I'm going to cover 3 core phases: tips to get you close to your customers, tips to leverage organic search, and combining the two well, as I said. So let's get into it. Phase 1, getting closer to your customers. And the first part of that is building a deep understanding of your audience and their target jobs to be done as well. So I like to think about it like this: like, how deeply are you thinking about the audience that you're creating content for? Do you know your target persona as well? Do you really know their jobs to be done? Do you know where they go to find content online and what format they want to find that content in? And do you genuinely understand how your product can help them with their common problems? And if the answer is no to any of those questions, then I would say you probably need to start again and go back to the beginning until you can answer yes to all of them, because then you're only then are you going to get really close to the customers at the level that you need to. So without a true knowledge of them, you can't truly create content that empathizes with the needs of your potential customers, and that's the key. So do things like align with product marketing to ensure your content remains in line with audience needs. And you should also speak to your product teams as well. Like, gaining insights into things like retention, aha moments, and I'll come back to a couple of those, can be really, really priceless for content ideas. Use internal discussions, documentation to identify common problems that users are facing. Like, leverage the research and the resources that you have internally, because they're absolute goldmine for information. And really, jobs to be done in persona information based on the expertise of your team and all the research that has gone into it will always be starting with random keyword research. Like, you need that deep level customer understanding before you dive into the next phase. So first example to give you: study the jobs to be done research for your target personas, then speak with your product marketing team to go deeper. Identify a list of common problems that your target audience is facing, and then create a content piece related to each of those problems. Explain how your product can help to solve those problems. And now, there might not always be like super high query volume around this, but there are other ways to signpost this content. There are other distribution channels you can get eyes via to this content. And that's the thing, like the content itself is what your customers want to see and your potential customers want to see. And so the rest can be figured out. Like, you can be sure that this content will perform with your target customers, and it will convert more effectively. Number 2, actually speak to your target customers and your target audience. Now, I think this is something that people don't do enough, and it is super obvious, but I'd be willing to say that a lot of people are not doing this as much as they should. So if you don't speak directly to your customers, you're going to do things like rely too much on your gut feeling and assumptions. You're failing to build the qualitative data into your approach. You're going to assume that you're getting the most out of your content when you're actually not. And all of this will lead to a lack of performance. So what you should be doing is running periodic customer research initiatives with existing and potential customers. This will enable you to find out more about their needs, more about their content needs, and you can do things like put content in front of users on calls. All of these sorts of things will make you understand your customers better, what they want from their content, and it will ultimately enable you to drive more conversions because you're placing the voice of the customer at the heart of your content. So this isn't just a plug. Like, there are great tools out there. You can use Hotjar's Engage, or you can set up a more manual process. There are plenty of ways you can speak to customers. And an example of how you can create a new workflow here is run a customer call initiative. Do it every quarter, every 6 months if you don't have the budget or time. Do it every year if needs be. But ask your existing customers what the pain points are with your product, and then create standalone pieces focused around those pain points and prioritize based on, like, if you have multiple people telling you about a specific pain point, go with that one, and then just tear it down by how often people are talking about the problem. On to number 3, cross-functional collaboration. Like, this is something that I think we do really well at Hotjar, and I think it's a really important part of getting closer to the customer. There's always so much great expertise within the company you work for, agency side, or whether you're working SaaS or in-house. Do things like speak to your product marketing team, your growth marketing team, sales, product squads. There's so much information in so many different places and in so many different formats. There's so many ways to digest it and turn it into powerful insights that you can use to power your content. Same as your agency side, like take, say, a development team, like speak with them to see like where people are encountering pain points and then create content around those insights. There are so many different things that you can do. So you want to be the facilitator for internal knowledge sharing. It will make you more knowledgeable. It will get you closer to your customers. So do things like build a meeting schedule to checkpoint with other teams, other internal teams. Maintain comms and visibility with consistency. Like you want to be doing this on a regular basis. And then you do things like use your keyword research to help prioritize like things like content clusters that you want to target, but make that come in like after you've spoken to your internal teams. So it's like you're adding a layer before, and then you can make sure that like both match up to make sure you're hitting your customer's need rather than just going with like only part of the process. So an example here, set up a call with your activation squad, focus on identifying aha moments with the product. So what parts of the product are driving usage and driving retention? And then reverse engineer those insights to create content around those aha moments. Because you can be sure that if existing customers are finding things really cool about your product, then other people will want to know about that. And what better way to get more people to sign up by using the insights of the customers that you already have, where they're telling you the things that they find most useful. And your product squad can be an absolute like gold mine of information for things like that. All right, on to phase 2. So leveraging organic search to maximize potential. Now, I just want to add a quick disclaimer, like, of course, content and SEO is like a vast area. I'm not going to dive into every aspect of technical SEO or keyword research or an endless checklist of tasks. Like there's plenty of resources out there. Like I'm trying to give you here tips that you can apply quickly that you might not have thought about. So using content SEO to align differently with your customers' needs, things like keyword research that places the customer first, unique ideas over copying competitors, and creative SERP targeting methods. So tip 4, be clever with your keyword research. Organic search is a powerful content amplifier, but don't lose sight of your customers when you're conducting keyword research. I've said that a couple of times already, and I'll keep saying it. The customer need comes before the keyword volume. It will ultimately enable you to drive more growth. It will help you prioritize more effectively. It will make your content better, and it will ultimately encourage more people to become customers with your company. Power your organic growth with customer first keyword research. So don't chase keywords that drive meaningless traffic. Like lots of irrelevant volume is pointless. Focus on the volume that matters. So if your audience have targeted an area, don't be afraid to go after it if the keyword tools don't necessarily align with that in terms of what they're saying. So you could end up dominating a new topical space if you're the first one to go after that space. You want to be ahead of the curve. And of course, sometimes you do want to go after the high volume keywords, but there's sometimes where you don't. So make sure you're always considering the customer's needs first. Don't go after things that don't make sense to your customers. Use customer discovery activities like those calls, those internal alignment meetings to help you to do this, to identify how you should prioritize your keyword research. And an example I wanted to share with you here is something that we did in the content team at Hotjar. So we spoke to our internal product squads and identified a couple of areas of key interest with our target customers. And these customer insights, they highlighted that some of the clusters we wanted to go after, they didn't actually have like that much volume according to the keyword tools, but we went after it anyway because we felt there was enough internal messaging and enough internal research to say that we should. So we created content that the tool said had 0 volume queries. But now these pages, they drive hundreds of quarterly visits that are super high value for us. And so we went after this based on customer research first. And now it's a great avenue of growth. And also like it was called out recently on LinkedIn by Meta's lead product designer. This is just an area where, because we were the first to go after a trend and because our internal teams knew more about this than we would have done, like through doing our keyword research, it was really worth going after, and it's now a really cool avenue for us. So it's an example that I think is worth sharing. So tip 5, learn when and when not to rely on competitor insights. So of course you want a strong awareness of the competitor landscape. Like if you don't know what content your competitors are creating, or you don't have an idea as to why, that's not great. And of course, there are times where you want to target content activities to beat rival and competitor content, but you don't want to base all your content on copying competitor activity. Like there can be too much obsession with it. It's always about balance. So don't be afraid to pursue unique ideas, and particularly ones that are based on customer research, even if no one else is doing it. Customers will remember content that stands out, and sometimes adopting a unique approach will help you to be more memorable to your potential customers. So an example here, you identify new clusters to create over the next quarter via a combination of those customer insights and keyword research. Then you research your 5 core competitors to see which content they have and haven't created within that cluster. So within that, you can then go, all right, well, let's say there's 5, one of your competitors has created 5 pieces, but there's also another 5 you've identified that they haven't. Go after both. So you're rivaling them for the existing cluster, the existing pieces they've created within the cluster, but you're also going after terms and content pieces that can drive growth through that no one else has created, which are going to rank more quickly without competition. And then you've got both sides of the picture, and actually the new content, you'll have double what your existing competitor has, and you're probably going to stand a better chance of ranking for the content that they've already created anyway. So it's a healthy combination and a healthy balance. Next, on to being creative with your SERP targeting. So a true understanding of the funnel can really aid you in speaking to your customers. And when you're creating your clusters, focus content around the customer journey. This will help connect the original search down to your product at different parts of that customer or potential customer journey, I should say. And by building a repeatable full funnel cluster model, you're designing content around the journey of your potential customers to increase conversions. So by modeling those clusters around the user journey, you're increasing how likely people are to stay on your website, because what you want to do, of course, is to, if you're capturing people at the top of the funnel, you don't just want to get that person and then they never come back or they never read any of the other content. So within a cluster, if you can build that funnel approach, you stand more chance of keeping them on your site. And as you like help someone to level up their knowledge in a specific area, let's say they come in at the top of the funnel, and then they say, like, okay, what is X topic? Oh, I want to read more about how to do this. And then you can start to show them how your product can help them until you get right down to the funnel when you're really helping them to make that decision to sign up. And so consider how successfully you can capture different search intent types within the same clusters that you create as well. So an example here, and this is something we do a lot at Hotjar, and I think it's something that we do well within our guides. We map out our target content clusters based on different stages of the customer's journey, and we cluster content to satisfy varying funnel stage intent. So it's that point again that I was just saying. It's educating customers, showing them how your product can solve their problems, and ultimately driving more conversions. And so each of these different steps, you're hoping to keep people on through the full journey and eventually get them to that point of conversion. On to phase 3, which is ensuring that more of the content you create converts. Power your strategy with historical data. Now, this sounds obvious, but there are some things that I think are really worth mentioning here in terms of how you use your data to get closer to customers as well, and how you use it in the right way. So there are a lot of pitfalls with the use of data, and that can be things like poor reporting that doesn't go deep enough, an inability to turn the data into actions. Like, you can spend all day looking at data, but if you don't know how to prioritize it into content that can be created to be useful for your customers and to drive growth, then it's kind of meaningless. A lack of qualitative insights as well, like it's got to be a combination of qual and quant. Modeling that doesn't necessarily consider the multi-touch journey, and vanity metrics over business impact. Like, if you're focusing on data that's just based around like ranking for X query, or oh great, this post drove like thousands of visits, it's like, okay, but what did that actually lead to like further down the funnel? Did it actually translate into business growth? Did it impact the funnel journey? Those are the things that you need to be thinking about to understand properly how to use historical data. Building qualitative data usage, because that will enable you to get the voice of customer into your content. I'll come a bit onto that in a little bit as well. Get really good at turning data into prioritized action points. Make sure that you're focusing data on how you can serve the customer needs, but also your business needs, because you need both of those things in harmony. Go as deep as possible with your reporting. Like, you want to go right down to like the customer, if you can do like LTV, CAC, like go as deep as you can into the numbers. Don't just focus like on the traffic, because that's so far away from the numbers that you need to be focusing on to move the needle. And yeah, multi-touch modeling. Of course, no modeling is perfect. I think multi-touch is a nice way to see at least a more reflective part of the full user journey. It's not perfect, but it is a good way to consider different touch points. So combined with customer insights as well, historical data can be a really powerful guiding star for your content efforts. it's a gold mine because it shows you what's working and what isn't, which is obvious, right? And if you can understand how to dig deep into what data you actually should be looking at and how to use it, it's going to help you immensely in your content efforts. And it also stops you working blindly in terms of the content you're creating. So at that point, multi-touch attribution would be my preference, and use the data to power a healthy combination of demand gen and demand cap content that builds in that full funnel journey. And it's worth saying as well here, if you can get wider buy-in within your content to that approach, it will help you as well. If there's a wider understanding that, okay, we need to create a certain amount of pieces at the top of the funnel to serve those pieces at the bottom of the funnel that ultimately drive growth, then that's the way to do it. And so invest time as well in like how you communicate internally to get buy-in to your approach as well, so that you're not constantly having to justify like why every single piece that you create doesn't lead to a conversion. Sometimes it's about the bigger picture. And at the end of it, focus on driving hard business impact as well. It's what we're here for, really, right? A lot of the time. So use the data on you have an existing customers and create more of what they're telling you they like. So do things like your audits every year or every 6 months, every quarter, whatever you want to do. Like take a time period that makes sense to assess, and then split out all the data you have, layer in like additional filters, do things like add like a theme to it, a topic to it, the format, the length, build in all these insights, and then order it and prioritize it by the new visitor to customer conversion rate. And then you can start to build out like, okay, well, I know that if I create a piece that has X topic in X format at X length, these are the sorts of things that we want to be focusing on. And then use your customer insights within that to say, okay, well, we know that our customers want to see content about X, but we don't have it in that theme format. And then you can start to create content more powerfully that impacts conversions. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, leveraging the power of qualitative insights. And this is one of my favorite things, actually. So I put together this quadrant, which I think explains it pretty simply and also pretty nicely. So to get balance in your use of customer insights and in your data analysis, you need to use regular qual and quant analysis. And if any part of that slips, you're moving back towards missing customer insights, you're making too many assumptions based on an incomplete picture of data. Do these two things well, and you'll start to hit this part of the quadrant, which is where you want to be. Because without the qualitative data, you're not building a true reflection of what customers want and need from your content. Qualify your assumptions with qualitative insights to build a true picture of what your customers need. So many great tools out there, of course, heat maps, recordings, on-site surveys, all these sorts of things to better understand how your potential customers are interacting with your content. It can influence all those things like length and format and whatever you want to cover. Numbers alone are not enough. So commit to learning more about what motivates your customers and the decisions they're making via the content they read. You can do things like regular research interview and initiatives, things like that. So an example, pick your 5 highest converting pages and install an on-site survey or feedback widget on those pages to gather insights around what people, all the people that are coming to those pages, right? You know that they're the people that are most likely to convert. So they're the people you want to know more information from. So if an existing piece converts, ask them what else they would like to see. Ask those people who are your most valuable audience in terms of impacting growth, and take their insights into a new topical workflow to create new content. Last one, and I will leave you with a couple of bonus tips as well after this. So get to know your own product or website inside out, and like properly get to know it. Stay on top of releases. Use your own product. It will help you to identify customer pain points, and you'll also discover great content creation opportunities too. If you don't ever use your own product or website, you will not be able to truly empathize with your customers. And that point of empathy, I keep coming back to because I think it's really important when you're talking about a customer-centric strategy. So stay on top of new releases and changes. Without that insight, you risk a lack of accuracy and poor positioning within your content, which is not what your customers deserve. Using your product also puts you in your customer's shoes. It will change how you see things. You will have assumptions, and then you will change them based on actually using the product or using your website. And the chances are that if you find something interesting when you're using your product, so might your customers as well. So like you can bring your own like aha moments to use and to create content off the back of. Final example here as well. So you discover that one of your cool tools now has 2 really cool new features. You audit your site to identify all the content that mentions that tool. And then you optimize the existing content, particularly the content that performs well, to show to bring in the new releases. That means that if let's say you have a historical page that's driving growth, people are interested in that product that you're mentioning within there, tell them about the new features, because then they'll get more value from it. It might encourage more people to sign up. You're giving people the freshest version of your product within the content you're creating. So let's bring this all together. Don't overcomplicate things. Like, I don't think that anything I'm sharing with you here is particularly hard to implement or like ridiculously overcomplicated. I sometimes just think that it's underrated doing how important it is to do the basics really well. And by placing your customers at the heart of your content strategy, you will do the basics more effectively, and you will convert more of the content you create. It isn't rocket science. So let's just revisit those 9 points. Customer-centric messaging, speaking to your customers, internal collaboration, customer-led keyword research, unique ideas, creative SERP targeting, historical data usage, qual and quant, and fresh qual and quant analysis, of course, as well, and getting to know your own product or website inside out. A few takeaways as well that I'd like to share with you just to close this off. I think it's really important to mention the editorial process. Strong synergy between editorial and content is a really powerful enabler for driving more customers. Like, don't underestimate the importance of a rigorous editorial process. If you want to give your customers the quality of content they deserve, it deserves to be edited to the highest standard. Nail your house style, be consistent. It will make you more memorable. It will make you stand out. Be consistent with your approach. And an extra as well, make sure that the addition of SME insights is part of your editorial workflow, because this will help to build trust with potential customers when you're using SME insights. Utilize your historical content as well. Like, adding to historical content can be just as valuable as creating new content from scratch. You might have tens and tens or hundreds and hundreds of pieces, and within that, there's so much potential opportunity for growth. So make sure you combine fresh customer insights with your historical content to make powerful and impactful optimizations. Optimizations are a great way to generate faster results as well. And you need a combination always of quick wins and things that can take more time to develop that could drive increased growth further down the line. So build a strategy that includes new and optimized content based around customer research to drive growth. And product-led content, I really want to mention as well. It's something that we've committed to at Hotjar. Like, a product-led approach to your content can ultimately help customers to get more value from the content you create and also your product in the long run. So consider providing loads and loads of great examples of how your product can help to solve your customers' problems within your content. Do it in a way that makes sense, of course. Like, if you have a top of the funnel piece, don't necessarily like absolutely load it with endless examples about your product. Base it on like the stage of the funnel they're at. So if it's the bottom of the funnel piece where someone might be more solution aware, they're really making that point, that consideration about signing up. Of course, you want more examples in there. At the top of the funnel, it's more of a slower burn. So like, there needs to be a balance, but this will help potential customers to better understand the value they get from your product, and you'll positively impact conversions. And you actually might even do things like help influence retention, because if someone understands your product well before they sign up, they're more likely to stick with it in the long run. If they sign up and then it's like, actually, I don't know how to get the most value out of this, then they might end up leaving, and that's obviously not what you want. So I'm going to leave you with this scalable content framework. It's not all encompassing, but I think it's a nice way to break out how you think about content creation in terms of targeting, resources, and outcomes, and how you scope, plan, deliver, and iterate over time. And I think it's about getting to that point of really knowing your audience, of delivering really quality content, and knowing how to measure and scale the content that works. And so if we focus lastly on outcomes, because that's always the most important point, get good at identifying your success measures and goals, identify the data points to leverage to drive growth over time, make sure you know how to track performance, and then use qual and quant data over time repeatedly to iterate and drive growth. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope that you found that useful, and yeah, looking forward to answering any questions that have come through. Cheers. I'll hand back to you, Nicole.
Well, we've got a ton of questions that have just come in, and we've got lots of time. So thank you to everybody for asking such great questions. And I'm just going to start from the top, Sean. So first one is from Kishana Evans. And the question is, hi, how can I create quality content based on my customer journey? This is a great question.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I think maybe that ties to that point of the content clusters and building them around the different funnel stages. I think the clustering of content is a great way to build a full picture around a specific area where you can create content at the top of the funnel if that's where the customer is in their journey towards signing up, or you can go right to the bottom and take something like really close to the bottom of the funnel. And a way to do that is, like, let's say at the top you've got what is X topic, and then right at the bottom it's like tools and software, and within that, how-to guides, tips and tricks, methods, checklists. And so it's like every possible point of intent within the customer journey, you can pack that into a cluster, not for the sake of it, make sure that it needs to be within that cluster. And I think that's a really nice way to get closer to the customers within the content journey you're creating.
Okay, the list is just growing here, Sean. Okay, our next one is from an anonymous attendee. I love these ones. A lot of this advice applies to larger companies with well-established teams and customer bases. Does the advice change for early stage companies that don't necessarily have customers yet?
That's a good question. And of course, it's easier to know what to do for your customers if you can base it on existing insights. But I think early stage, the research still has to be done in terms of like how to grow a company and in terms of what marketing that you need to do. And so it's a slightly different process, right? You're basing what to create for your customers on potential customers rather than existing customers. But a lot of those research points still stand. So even if it's a really small company, there are people within that company that are going to be researching the targeting, the messaging. And at that point, that becomes even more priceless. And then over time, the data starts to come in. You speak to customers, you speak to your target audience more, then you speak to customers as they sign up more, and you can start to refine your approach. But it does depend, of course, on where you're at in your stage as a business.
Thank you, Sean. And another question has just come in. This one is from Luca. I'm going to skip everyone's last names because I'm not going to say them correctly, and I know we don't have a lot of time here. So, why do you always talk about solving problems for customers? Is it just problems?
That's a good question. Not always. No, not always. I think sometimes there's education as well. Someone might just want to learn more about a specific area. They might be further away from the point of conversion. But I think I guess a big part of this webinar is focused on growth as well. And so I think if you don't understand the problems your customers are facing, but then it's unlikely that you're going to drive the growth that you want to drive. A true understanding of the customer's problems is really important in that. And actually, like, if I think about my day-to-day as a digital marketer, like, I'm constantly trying to solve different things to get to a different point of impact. And so maybe you wouldn't always refer to it as a problem, and that's not every part of it. But I think like, that's ultimately your product is there to help someone with an issue, a problem. Like, otherwise they won't sign up to use it. Like, that there has to be a point that they're trying to solve, and so that's kind of the link to the problem point.
Thanks, Sean.
No problem.
And another question here from Giuliano. Which tools do you suggest for correct multi-channel attribution? Great question.
That is great. That is a great question. Now, I would preempt this by saying, most of all, if you can, try and work with a really good data team that really understand how to interpret and report upon data. Tableau is the one that we use because it enables us to go really deep into the numbers. But it depends on your internal setup. Like, that's not necessarily easy to set up. Like, it might require it will require the knowledge of a data specialist. And so that's the tool that we use. When I was agency side, it was much more focused on GA, which of course is used very widely as well, and is perhaps easier to set up in terms of doing things like goals, conversions. Like, it gets a little bit more complex in something like Tableau.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another question has just come in. This one is from Kevin. What can I do if the customers want to see certain things on the job offer, such as salary, learning, and so on, but the job offer can't be changed by the employment agency and doesn't include the actual things that customers want to see?
Sorry, could you repeat that one for me, Nicole? Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. What can I do if customers want to see certain things on a job offer, such as salary, learning, and so on, but the job offer can't be changed by the employment agency and doesn't include those things customers want to see? So I think what Kevin is trying to ask is, how can I maybe optimize my content for what customers want if I'm stuck with having certain things not on a piece of content? Perhaps we could play around in the meta tags or keywords or things like that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not totally following the question on this one. I'm sorry. Like, I would really like
That's
to answer
okay.
it.
I'll get back to Kevin on this, and so see if we
Yeah,
can
I might need to
get
think on that one a little bit more. But I would
absolutely,
like to. I will
absolutely.
definitely provide a follow-up answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for throwing you a ringer there, Sean.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Absolutely fine.
As you can see, we don't censor our questions here at Hotjar. So there we go.
All good.
Okay, this one's from Coral. Any tips to build or improve jobs to be done?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the credit for laying out our jobs to be done at Hotjar goes to our product marketing team. So it obviously helps that we have real experts putting together that information. If you don't have that, then let's say, I don't know, let's say you're at an agency, like probably need to speak to clients to see what internal documentation they have. And if there's like if there really isn't like that much information available, I think it's a case of like doing a lot of research up front into your target customers, testing things with potential customers as well, testing things with the target audience to make sure you know what resonates and what doesn't. Like, it really depends on like what research resources you have access to, I think. And obviously, if you don't have access to a lot of existing documentation, it is a more time consuming and more in-depth process, but you trust your knowledge, trust your research, and then refine it over time by actually like putting it in front of customers, testing the messaging that you've come up with, testing that your jobs to be done are accurate. And you can do that as well in terms of creating content that serves those jobs to be done, because if you create content that serves it, the jobs to be done that you think are there, and it's just not resonating, then you probably need to go back and rethink it a little bit. And if it does work, then you know that you're on the money with it.
Thank you. Okay, Felipe asks, I know you're going to like this question, Sean. How are you seeing the future of search regarding AI?
Yeah, great question. I thought I did expect someone would ask this question as well. I think AI is here to stay, whether it be ChatGPT or the many other AI solutions that are out there. And I think it would be remiss not to emphasize in a webinar based around putting the customer at the heart of your strategy, not to mention that the human touch, I think, now is more important than ever. I think total resistance to AI is not great, because it is, as I say, it's here to stay, clearly. I think it's about learning how to use it to be more efficient, to help improve the content that you're delivering to customers in some ways, but like, don't lose the human touch. Don't lose the human touch within that. I think that's really important. So maybe a balance. Like, it's important to be open-minded with these things, but I wouldn't say like just drop everything that you're doing and just use a piece of AI software. Of course, like, wouldn't make sense.
The $1 million question right now, right?
Sure.
Okay. Anonymous attendee asks, first says, hey, Sean, thank you for the very informative presentation. Thank you, Sean, as well. My question to you is, how would you lever what you want to tell your audience versus what they want to know? And so what is your stance on evidence? This is a two-part question. Let's start with the first part. How would you leverage what you want to tell your audience versus what they want to know?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it comes down to assumptions versus like actual messaging in terms of like getting to that point of what your customers want. So just because you think that customers want to see something or see a piece of content or be told about a certain area, try not to focus too much on doing that without the research factored in. I mean, there's no better way to know to kind of like meet the point between those two things than actually speaking to customers, because of course you need a starting point so you can get close to what you think your customers want to see. But then, like, yeah, talk to them, see if you're right. Maybe you need to make some tweaks, like, and that's something that we do quite a bit as well. Like, there've been times when I've had a content idea that I thought was really good, and actually it turned out like no one was interested in it. And so, like, doing things like running surveys with your audience, speaking to your audience, like it really helps. And you said there was a part 2 to the question, right, Nicole?
There's a part 2, yes. And what is your stance on evidence-based marketing to leverage this?
Evidence-based, do you think that's maybe in the sense of like making decisions based on numbers, right?
That is what I would assume based on this question. So I think it would be about relying on like hard data, maybe through GA to make those decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and sorry if I misunderstand the question. I'll give it a go answering based on that. But yeah, I mean, evidence is probably the best input that you can put into your content strategy. Like, there's no arguing with, if you have the data that shows you that something works, like, that's the most powerful tool that you have. Like, maybe an extra to that could be that you take the data that you've got that shows really good performance and try and think how you can improve upon that as well. So, like, yeah, use it, you can repeat things, but you can also add to it as well, and speak to your customers to see what you can add to it as well.
Thank you. I hope we captured that correctly. And if not, please ping me in the chat here. Okay, we have a question here from Ollie. What are some of the biggest wins you implemented at Hotjar from a content design point of view, UX, etc.? This might not be your specialty, Sean.
Yeah, I'll try. Like, I'm not so close to the UX and UI, but I can say that something that we've done that is a really big success story, that's an area that I work upon, is the guides. Is our biggest success story. So literally, if you go hotjar.com/guides, there's loads and loads of examples of this, and those are those clusters that I was talking about in terms of the content. Sorry, my brightness just went really weird there for a second. Yeah, the creating clusters across the funnel with product-led content within it, that's what's driven us the most growth. I think it's a tried and tested strategy, but when you do it well, and when you get the navigation around the different points of the customer journey and make improvements based on things like CRO experiments to find out like where you want to place certain things, like that section of the site has probably been the biggest success story, and there are tens and tens and tens of examples of the clusters. And so, like, over time, when you like the cumulative effect of all of these clusters together, the growth is huge. So I hope that's an example, but yeah, it might be a bit of a stretch.
Actually, that's a really great example. And I'll never forget the first time I came into Hotjar and I looked at the guides and I was like, this is the most brilliant like design conception I've ever seen. And they all follow a row and they just flow so nicely with each other. So
for sure, yeah. And I have to say, I can't take credit for that. Like, they were in place before I joined Hotjar, and we continued the work that was done and adapted it and improved it over time. But yeah, definitely testament to the historical team here.
Okay, we've got some time for a few more questions. Kevin writes, we have an employment agency and we are active in the industry and in the sector in general. Right now, we get a lot of conversions, but the quality is low. So by conversions, I'm assuming Kevin means like clicks on the CTAs, that sort of thing. We want to improve the quality of leads and let them know what they want to see on certain things in the job offers we can give them. However, we can't change the job offers because they are sent to us from an outside source. So how can we improve the quality of leads if we're so restricted in the content we provide?
Okay, I think I'm following this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole. In the sense that, like, the content is predefined, and so it can't be changed, and so it's like that's what has got to be worked with. I mean, that's a tricky one, because a lot of the points relate to actually like adjusting and improving content. Could you create sort of satellite content pieces that serve the page in play and like drive people to that page from like a higher level up. So you're using all these sorts of inputs to create content around that one page that you aren't able to change, and then kind of like funnel people down, or create like, I don't know, create a cluster relevant to it, and then have that page as like the page where the CTA is, and so that's the page that you're driving people down to. I don't like, that's my best attempt to answer the question. I hope that kind of hits the mark.
It's a really interesting question, because my instinct would be like, okay, can you create a landing page? Can you leverage social media for this? Like, I
For
mean,
sure, yeah, for sure.
yeah, maybe you leverage other channels to fill up that information with everything that you want your target audience to get. And then maybe the last point is getting them to that job where they click apply or things like that, but they have what they need. So maybe they're getting the social proof that they need from another source, then coming to your landing page or to your website, and then they access the information that they want. Anyways, I find this fascinating. So it's a great question, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting one, that for sure.
Okay. Question here from Ian. This is a great question too. I'm saying great questions a lot because these are great questions. Do you have a jobs to be done interview template that you use when you are speaking to customers?
I would have to double check that with the product marketing team, actually. I see all the resources, and I see all the job that like we have like pages and pages of like really useful stuff that feeds into this, and like a really like defined breakdown of the jobs to be done. But in terms of a template, I could certainly find out. Might have to be a follow-up answer. But because I'm not currently the one conducting that research, I wouldn't be able to answer that question accurately. I guess it depends as well. Like, say your audience is changing, like maybe the template you have might need adapting, and so maybe it's less useful. But it's a great question, actually. I'd like to provide a follow-up if we can.
Yeah, I would too. And it just gave me an idea for maybe an upcoming post or another content topic. So thank you, Ian. Marina asks, how can Hotjar help me identify the jobs to be done?
I think maybe one way would be a great way would be like using Engage to conduct interviews and to substantiate hypothesis around jobs to be done, and actually dig deeper into that. I think would be perhaps the best way. Sorry, short answer to that one.
That's a good answer though. Okay. And we've got time for a few more. They keep rolling in, Sean.
No problems.
Do you need a drink of water?
No, good. Oh, good. Thanks.
Okay. So anonymous attendee asks, how would you reinforce the importance of organic content in a company that doesn't see the value? Whoa, we've all been there, haven't we? We've all been there. You work in marketing, you've been there.
Yeah, I love this question, and I can relate deeply to it because it's something that I think a lot of people working in this industry have experienced, and I've seen it. If I go back to like agency side as well, particularly like the amount of times that we've worked with companies that perhaps don't have that widespread understanding of SEO, and you're constantly being questioned, and there's always like unnecessary judgments on the strategy that aren't always helpful. Like it's a tricky one to resolve. I think that the best way that you can prove the value of SEO is through data. Like that's hard early on, but when you give people cold hard stats that show growth and impact, that will always help. Sometimes people just will not be won over, like, and it is tricky. There are a lot of misconceptions around SEO. I think a lot of that's been influenced by historical practices back in the older days, and there are some things that are difficult to get past, but yeah, numbers will help a lot. Also think like if you're looking internally to yourself to try and do something, you're increasing like your organizational awareness skills are really important. Like I'm lucky here in that we have buy-in to organic search, but I myself have had to get better at communicating insights, at presenting strategy, at presenting like areas where I think we should go after growth, and being able to present big ideas in a way that like is really concise and impactful is helpful. Like a lot of people unfortunately don't care about your job to the level that you do. And like when you're really passionate about what you do, that can be a bit frustrating. Like that's not exclusive. That's just everywhere. Like you're always going to care more about what you do than other people. But like learning to break down to the point of what matters will help you sell the value of what you do better. Like try and get really good at just cutting out noise. Just focus on like really concise information to get buy-in, or at least attempt to get buy-in more effectively.
I love that. Nobody loves your job as much as you do. And yeah, as a former content writer, I resonate with that. I'm sure there's other content writers on the call here too. Okay, we've got 8 minutes left and the questions keep on rolling. So we probably won't have time to answer everything, but I really love everyone's enthusiasm here. Okay. Sorry, Sean, there's so many to choose from.
That's all right. No
This is a great one. From Victoria. What advice do you have for brands whose goal is brand awareness rather than conversions, as that can be harder to quantify? Great question.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, of course, this presentation, it has been focused quite heavily on conversions, but definitely don't want to like undermine the value of the many other different content types that you can focus on and different strategies. And the brand team here at Hotjar do an amazing job. Like I am very much acquisition focused, but we connect with brand and they're doing a fantastic job in partnership with the content team of like going after different formats, things like this webinar that we're here on today, like trying and experimenting in different ways. You can still focus on, let's say you're more interested in getting people to know your brand better. You can still take the cluster approach. You can still use customer insights, but it's higher up. You're using those insights to power higher up the funnel. So it's less about like what converts. You're more asking people like, what do they want to learn about a certain topic, or how do they want like your brand to deliver them content? Like what sort of fun content do they want to see? Like there's all sorts of different things that you could do.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
No problem.
Okay, another question here from an anonymous attendee. How can we be conscious of your advice when our KPIs are not rooted in conversion and the traditional funnel? For example, we have recently identified a gap in our focus on word of mouth based sales decisions instead of traditional on-page conversion. Interesting.
Yeah, good. Sorry, Nicole, could you repeat the first part of that question for me?
Yeah, for sure. How can we be conscious of your advice when our KPIs are not rooted in conversion and the traditional funnel? For example, we have recently identified a gap in our focus on word of mouth based sales instead of traditional on-page conversions.
Yeah, sure. And in that case, I think a lot of the tips here are maybe not suited because they are focused on the conversions, say like through the website or things like that. In terms of word of mouth marketing, maybe some of these things could still be used to get closer to what use like the qualitative insights around what your customers want you to create in terms of content, and then use that to power like word of mouth campaigns instead. Like I don't know, maybe that's not the best answer.
Well, we can always come back. Yeah, I think it's great. So to the anonymous attendee who asked that, if you need some more context or you'd like us to dive a bit deeper, please just send me a little note on the chat here. Okay, so we've got time for just a couple more questions here. Another great question from an anonymous attendee. Does organic social media help organic content? What strategies would you suggest for organic social media?
I'm still totally I'm not totally sure in terms of like how closely the two are linked in terms of like organic signals on organic social in terms of directly impacting growth via organic search. And I think that's potentially up for debate. But I think you can pair the two together to kind of be consistent in your content creation process. And so like, and then also to like fuel your distribution as well. Like you can have like a playbook for like, say you create a certain piece of content, you're also creating the accompanying social media assets as well. And it might not be that the two are like directly impacting each other. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But it still makes sense to kind of like have synergy and like right across like all the platforms you're creating content for. Like if you're doing one thing on one, like for organic SEO, and then you're doing one thing for social, like I think alignment together will probably help you in the long run. But yeah, in terms of like direct impact on organic search, like I think you'd get different viewpoints on that. I'm loath to say it depends as well.
Wow, questions are still rolling in. I think we've got time for one more. This one might take 3 minutes. If it doesn't take 3 minutes, Sean, I'll hit you with one more after this.
Sure.
From another anonymous attendee. We are a small B2B fintech company of 15 people and have only 2 marketing people on board. What would you say are the 3 things we should prioritize in terms of content marketing?
Oh, great question.
Such a good question.
That's a weighty question as well.
I know.
I think early stage calls with potential customers would be really, really useful for getting super impactful insights into the process really quickly. I think really clear prioritization of a couple of growth areas rather than trying to like spread your work across like loads of different target areas. Like focus on a couple of things and create clusters and do that content really, really well. And also, trying to think of another one. Sorry, lots of questions. My brain's declining now.
It's okay. We've been hitting you like fast.
No, it's all good. That's why I'm here. But I think as well, like learning how to measure and scale early on as well. So get really good at like testing things, finding out what works, and getting like cut what doesn't really quickly and keep what does and scale that. So be really ruthless in your approach to creating content. Like stick with the stuff that works and just can everything that doesn't.
Thank you. And to all the questions that weren't answered, we will make sure to get answers for those soon. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Our next webinar for April will be announced very soon. We just got confirmation on our guests, so stay tuned for that. And thank you very much, everyone. I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are dialing in from. And to those watching us on the recording, hello, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sean. Take care.
Bye. Bye.